El doctor James Hurtak fue uno de los primeros en llamar la atención hacia las raras formaciones superficiales encontradas en Marte. En 1989 publicó el libro La esfinge en Marte. En él analiza los hallazgos y sugiere la posibilidad de que sean restos de una civilización inteligente que algún día habitó sobre Marte. El doctor Hurtak posee doctorados en lingüística, filosofía y ciencias sociales. Actualmente es director de la Academia Norteamericana para las Ciencias Futuras.
In 1973, I brought forth several theoretical positions regarding the landforms on Mars that were seen by the Mariner 9 spacecraft. At that time, in the area of Mars known as the Elysium Quadriangle, 4 clear-standing tetrahedral or pyramidal-like forms were seen, and I had suggested early on that Mars deserves a second look for the mathematical preciseness of these massive landforms, some of which were estimated to be 800 times larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And the fact that Mother Nature doesn't replicate or reproduce so precisely suggested that there was something there on the surface of Mars that may be a clue to earlier civilization. The documentation was put out in a wide variety of publications, and I talked to Harold Mazursky, who was closely connected with the Viking 1 and Viking 2 programs of 1976, that good optical systems should take a closer look at interesting forms, pyramidal forms on Mars. At that time, Jerry Soffin, who was head of the Jet Propulsion Lab group, felt that this was not necessary because obviously there were no signs of intelligent life as we define life. And so the issue was basically put on the shelf until the Viking orbiter picked up the details of a gigantic landform that looked like a human face.
Una de las misiones que tenía la nave Mars Observer era precisamente lograr nuevas fotografías de la región de Sidonia, así como de Eliseo, para determinar con más precisión qué son los misteriosos monumentos en Marte. Al analizar las posibles causas de la supuesta desaparición de la sonda más sofisticada que haya producido el ser humano, sin dejar rastro alguno, Hurtak ha realizado su propia investigación.
3 possibilities were suggested. One, prior to orbital insertion, the valves called the pyrotechnic valves that are used for pressurizing the fuel and the oxidizer tanks created some pressure mechanism which resulted in some type of explosion. Secondly, in the pressurizing of the tanks prior to orbital insertion, something in the nature of the seams went because of perhaps inadequate preparation of materials. 3, something in the nature of the command processor as well as the uplink processor went haywire, and as a result, due to the technical complications, no signals were received and the orbiters simply went past Mars in the direction of the sun. So we have some very exotic reasons. And I brought with me a cartoon from Pasadena suggesting that an alien intelligence was interested not so much in the observer but the radio system on the observer, the black box, which they took conveniently. So we have tremendous situations here where NASA either can sue General Electric, which was later bought by Martin Marietta, for inadequate preparation of the seams that gave way in this event of orbital insertion, or we have, shall we say, some lessons of science yet to be discovered And this is what I think is the most significant side of the story that's been left out. The fact that we have a parallel with the Soviet Phobos 1 and Phobos 2 missions that were sent to Mars that met with also failure. Phobos 1 was simply considered a failure due to computer redundancy problems. But Phobos 2, as you know, disappeared under very unusual circumstances.
La investigación del Dr. James Hurtak confirmaría las revelaciones hechas antes por la doctora Marina Popovich, así como las imágenes presentadas por la televisión soviética, donde se adivina la posibilidad de que una gran nave hubiese podido capturar a la pequeña sonda. Las evidencias se encuentran ahí.